Big question of the night. You ready for it?
I'm ready for it.
Okay. Why is it that I have this old shiny black microphone and you got this nice new matte finish microphone?
It has to do with my fabric. I mean,
Your
look at what
fabric.
you, I mean,
Like the fabric of your being?
look
prejudice.
at what you have on. I mean, my
Hey,
goodness.
can I please
have,
get a new matte microphone? Crew member.
I mean, you need to,
So you're saying you got this microphone because you're wearing a suit?
right.
Okay. Hey, where's my suit?
My threads. He's learning.
Come on in the shot. Tell me about can these cameras play jingle bells? I noticed they're professional. Signs of professional quality. Number one, camera plays music when you're touching the screen. What's the second sign of a professional camera?
Money.
Well,
It's called green.
we're out of luck.
Okay, you're asking these difficult
We're standing
questions.
here in front of our
Yes, we're standing.
our local penitentiary / retirement home. This is where we send all our loved ones for their sunset. Are you looking forward to going here?
So you're suggesting that this is where I go when I'm facing my
Well,
sunset here in a couple of years, right?
Got to take care of you in a week or
Okay.
two.
I mean, this is getting good. So many people keep asking me why I'm committed to a process and not a conclusion. It's not like I don't have conclusions, but I'm looking for better methodologies that would tease out this and that. Therefore, my conclusions are actually in question. And so I work through them, with them, but through them in order to arrive at better outcomes. And so being committed to a process, not a conclusion, is extremely valuable in my life and others.
I joined the Navy at 17 years old. I was adopted. I never met my biological father. My biological name was Michael Sean Artzer. When I joined, I didn't think I'd ever go to college, first of all. My dad that adopted me got a GED in the Army. My mom was the only one that got a high school diploma out of 6 sisters and a brother. We didn't think college was a real high priority. 4 degrees later and a master's degree, I think I did okay. But that had to do with the United States Navy. So I joined the Navy in November 8, 1986 on the DEP program. That was one of the weirdest days of my life, honestly. A few months later, I was offered scholarships to run for cross country. And I'll never forget it, this athletic director from the University of Wyoming got called down to guidance counselor. I've told this story 100 times. He said, "Hey, we'll give you a scholarship to run cross country for Wyoming." And I said, "I don't think that's going to happen." I said, "I joined the Navy." And he goes, "You joined the Navy?" I said, "Yep, going in as an E1 and on July 8th. And he looked at me like I was the dumbest human being on earth. I wish I could find that guy now, man. 13 Bay grades later, an XO, and been all over the world. But the bottom line is, at that point, I didn't realize that I was going to be cleaning the bathroom in the movie Top Gun in NTC in San Diego, which I was. That was part of the hazing process. But anyways, I ended up at Pensacola. I went through, I was corpsman, the highest rate in the military for Medal of Honors. If you don't know that, there's more Medal of Honors that were corpsmen than any other rate in all the services. And I got stationed here in Pensacola. And just by default, no one wanted to work weekends and nights, so guess who got to? I did, and that was good for me because I could go to school. So I walked down to PJC, and I got my 2-year degree. And at that time, the Navy had a very odd program. It was called a Technical Nurse Warrant Officer program. And so I made E5, and within 4 years, I was enlisted 52 months, and I got picked up for a warrant commission. I was the youngest warrant officer in the Navy at that time, and I got sent out to Oak Knoll, and I looked like a damn fool. I had only a Good Conduct Medal and a National Defense Medal. And I remember when I checked into Oak Knoll, I'm at the McDonald's going to household goods to get my housing stuff. There's a Master Chief with like 6 rows of ribbons and everything you can imagine. He goes, "What are you?" I said, "I'm a warrant officer." He goes, "We don't have W1s." I said, "Well, I don't know what to tell you." Here I am. And he dressed me up and down, but he realized I eventually gave up, and I guess he thought I was an honest broker. But got my bachelor's degree out there. And then from there, I went to Guam. And Guam I did a lot of ICU and ER from that time on. I did about 10 years of that. And I do sometimes, I don't know why it strikes me, but sometimes I just think about things in my past, certain patients and stuff, and it'll strike a nerve. And I don't know, I can't shake it, but I'm working on it. Came back. Just to cut short, I'm going to give my whole career, because we're going to talk a little bit about politics, because that's why you're here. You want to see if you can trust me to be your commissioner, and I know that. Ended up having the last 10 years of my career having big assignments. I was at OIC at 2 different clinics. I was the director of healthcare business. My last job was the XO of NMOTC, which had about 700 crew. We managed around 100 buildings, pushed through 22,000 students, had a budget close to $200 million. The job before that, we had 60,000 people enrolled in TRICARE. Every month we pushed through 3,000 referrals. The job is not going to be complicated for me. I understand government and org man. The job, what you're hiring, is to get someone that can potentially work with 3 other commissioners to get something done in District 2. I have the resume. Read my resume. I have no problem showing you that I have the organizational skills to do this job. The problem is you're hiring someone that can hopefully get something done. And that's my first plea to you as we go through these moments together. What am I about? You know, I've walked about 3,000 doors already in District 2. We put up tons of yard signs. You'd be amazed what most people care about. A few people in this room I've talked to openly, and they've taken around Pensacola. Other people have told me certain things that matter to them. Walter? Yeah, I know homelessness matters to Walter. I just recognize you. How are you? Glenn, the shoreline, it's important to him. Gulf Beach Highway, Sorrento. Probably the #1 thing I hear about, honestly. The #1 thing I probably hear about on the doors if I was to do a random survey. Ordinance enforcement. A lot of people are upset about ordinance enforcement. I went to Bio Davenport HOA. They gave me an earful on that. There's a house down there that probably needs to be completely destroyed. Stormwater drainage. I saw the flood defenders. That's a big factor, especially for this side because they built so many houses. Homeless plan. A lot of people wonder what we're doing the homeless plan with the city. A lot of people don't think we're fiscally conservative enough and we're managing the money correctly. And I could give you an example where I agree with them. If you look at the discretionary funds that were taken for the ECUA project, I'm 100% for septic to sewer. Don't have a problem with that. They took discretionary funds. It was about $5.6 million. I don't know how many folks remember this. They had to give $1.7 million on what they call an interlocal agreement with ECUA. That's very similar to what we call in the military an MOU or MOA. To pay for the Beach Haven, Warrington, and Brownsville septic to sewer. I had no problem with that. I filed to run for county commissioner the last week of January. My first encounter was at the Perdido Methodist Rotary, or the Rotary Club out in Perdido there. And I went to the Methodist Church. And the very first thing that they said at that meeting, it was a town hall, and they said, well, they're going to get about $8 million more from the BP spill. And that was going to come out at $20 million. Well, if that was the case, ECUA should have wrote a check back to the county to pay for the $2 million shortage we have for fire rescue. Do you think they did that? Hadn't happened. All right, this is what happens when you look in silo management, when you don't look across parallels, when you don't ask the questions. There's no way, and I'm not saying this to be disrespectful to any county commissioner, there is absolutely no way you can effectively represent 64,000 people part-time. If you think you can do that, you can't. I've had too many big jobs. There's no way I could have represented 5,500 enrollees at Bell Chase Medical Clinic part-time. I couldn't have done it. And there's no way they can do it there either. They're going to say it's the county administrator's responsibility, which they're right. It is the county administrator's responsibility. But that does not, for a minute, relinquish oversight. And that's what we're missing, oversight. So you'll get someone, there'll be a watchdog for oversight, and they will ask the questions. I don't need to be right. I just need to make sure. I don't even need to be the smartest guy in the room. I don't care about any of that. What I really need is to get the right person in the room to make the right decision. That's what you need to assign when you're hiring someone. I've looked at hundreds of resumes over the last 12 years on what we call position management boards. And I'll tell you, sometimes it's tough decisions on who you're going to hire. but we hire based on qualifications, not likability, not on someone told you to. You hire someone based on their skill set, what we call KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities to do a job. So that's what's important to me. A lot of people, I want to ask a couple questions here. How many people would like to have a road through the base? Okay. How many people want the museum open? Okay. Okay. Here's one. How many people want the museum open at a cost of losing some training to the base? Has anyone thought about that?
One of the missions of the base is PR.
The number one mission of the base is to train, equip, or support the warfighter. That's the mission of the base. That's the mission of the base. I want the museum open more than anyone, but I don't want it open at a cost to training. The training on the base brings in $1.3 billion a year at 2017. You know how much a museum brings in the economy? $31 million. That could be a $1 billion. I mean, it would be such an economic disaster for this side of the Pensacola. We couldn't imagine it. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I'm not. I just am asking you to challenge yourself and ask the questions. Why do I say that with so much passion? I was stationed in Oakland Naval Hospital in 1993. My first assignment was on an orthopedic floor. I was taking care of a patient that had both his limbs shot off in Vietnam. Ron Dellums, anyone know who Ron Dellums is? Ron Dellums was the chairman of the Armed Services Committee in the House. This patient, he was coming to Oakland Naval Hospital to the auditorium to talk to us about the BRAC. This patient asked me, can you please wheel me down to the auditorium? I was 23 years old. I didn't know anything about politics. But this really mattered. I don't even remember the guy's name. That's how bad, I took care of a lot of patients there. But I said, sure, I'll wheel you down. I wheeled him down. I started to get captured by this politician's words. And he stood in front of a room of 250 people, and he said, listen, I need y'all to hear me out. I'm the chairman of the Armed Services Committee in the House Committee, or in the House. We're not going to close Oak Knoll. We're not going to close Presidio. We're not going to close Alameda. And we're not going to close Treasure Island. Bill Clinton's the president. How many of those places are open today? 0. When I taught for BUMED, military medicine, you know what? I used to literally go, name that hospital that's no longer open. You know, when we got to about 15, people would say, wow, can't believe that. Naval Hospital, Pensacola, 2015, I was the director of healthcare business there. They did something. They don't do BRACs anymore because politicians lose their jobs when they do that. So they said, oh, we won't do that anymore. What we'll do is we'll do service line cuts, because then the people won't be smart enough to realize that we're really skinning them while they don't even know it. So what they did at Naval Hospital Pensacola, they did a CONUS study. I was part of that. Mo Patton was a CO. She's running for city council. She's a good CO. And another gal, Carolyn Rice, she's a CO over in Okinawa. She was a DMS. I was DHP. Skipper was Mo Patton. We fought tooth and nail. We had all the metrics to keep every product line open except for OBGYN. We should have sent that to Sacred Heart because we weren't delivering enough babies. But the ER, the ICU, the family resident program, we had a $3.5 million sharing agreement with the VA. All that went away. Why should that matter to everyone in this room? Well, no, it matters because time to treat and survivability. So if you leave here and you go into Grand Lagoon and get hit and you're bleeding, you're going to exsanguate before we can stop the bleeding and get you over to Baptist. You just add an extra 15 to 20 minutes. So survivability is a huge factor when they move the ER out. So I know they have that ER up on 98 and Blue Angel, but that's not, if you have a thrombolytic stroke and you want to get clot busters, you're not going to make it. You have to have them within 3 hours. Well, they can be good. I've seen them depending on, but the case is you're not even going to get that option. So that's why I say when politicians make policies, and I have no problem with Baptists, they had a right to move and all that, but the EMS service, you got one guy running in District 2 that understands EMS service inside and out, and that's Mike Kohler. I've been an ICU nurse, an ER nurse. I've been on every EOC I can imagine in this county over the years. And I can't even tell you how many drills, from terrorist drills to plane crashes to train crashes to, shootings. We've done all those drills with the county over the years, and when I was at Whiting too. That's very important. So I would envision, this ain't a county commissioner's job, but one of the things that I would like to see is an inpatient VA center eventually here. It should have happened, but because Trent had a lot of power, they put it over in Biloxi, and we have more veterans here. That's not a county commissioner job, but that's just something that I would think would be beneficial. If you're not a veteran, that's okay, but you know why it's important? You still could get emergency services there, and that would help with survivability. So that's just a off-the-cuff kind of thing that would matter to me. Blight. How many people feel like the blight's a problem up Gulf Beach Highway and other areas? A lot of people are complaining about that. They feel like ordinance enforcement. A lot of people don't like to leave their name. I'm thinking about that. I don't think you should have to leave your name, but if you make a false claim, then you should be disclosed. I think that's fair. That's not the current policy. I don't know if anyone's filed a claim against anyone, but if you file a claim, you have to put your name in, and then whoever you file it against can go down, get online and find out who filed the claim. It's out there. That certain people, I think, feel they could be a victim or be persecuted if they do something that's within the law or current ordinances. I think I'll try to enforce that in a different way. All right. I want to go over the things that are important to me probably in that thing. Gulf Beach Highway Surrender Road, I know that's FDOT. They had what we call PD&E done in 2018. That was from basically Navy up to Blue Angel. It was a $75.3 million project. Anyone familiar with that? It's been PD&E'd, but it hasn't been funded yet. So right now it's 18th on the list. It went from 43 to 18th or 19th. Don't hold me. It's 18th or 19th. So it's moving in the right direction, but it's a big issue. I would say ordinance and stormwater are probably my number twos. They're probably equally, because if we don't get a lot of rain, stormwater ain't a big deal. But if it is, everyone's got a big deal because they're flooding. I was at the Lake Charlene HOA, and of course they got FEMA money to raise their levy over there, and everyone's happy. I'll be interested to see what happens to Old Hickory over here when that happens, because I'm hoping they don't get flooded worse, because they flood pretty bad. That's something we'll have to keep an eye on. I know the stormwater drainage is a huge thing they did over here recently. Has been pretty good at the end of Beach Haven over here towards I went over and looked at that. That's a pretty big retention pond. Looks good, but I'm a little worried about Old Hickory area. I'm a huge advocate for term limits. I've already said that. I don't think people should be in office more than 8 years. They should move on. I was in the Navy for 33 years. I've used this story several times. I had to change jobs every 3 to 4 years. I retired in 2020. Guess what? The Navy's doing just fine without Mike Kohler. They're doing fine. I did my job. You should do your job and move on. I'd like to open it up for questions for anyone that would like to ask me what's on their mind. And, well, let me tell you a joke first so I can lighten up the crowd before they start to... Yeah, well, so since you mentioned it, what's a lawyer with cement up to his neck? Not enough cement. Just kidding. How many people have been bitten by a shark? How many people have been bitten by a dog? Okay, how many people have been bitten by a mosquito? Yeah, it's the little things that matter. You need to elect someone that will look at the little things, not the big things. Sometimes we look at sharks, and we really need to be worrying about mosquitoes. All right. So any questions out there? Okay, Walt, what do you got?
Yeah, so as you know, one of my big interests is homelessness and poverty and how that kind of intersectionality. And so I've got kind of a threefold question. One, as someone who also works in the healthcare space, and I love my doctors as a Marine. Will you rely on evidence-based best practices?
Absolutely.
When you're looking at stuff, and then the latest committee of the whole of homelessness was brought up. We've got around 5,000 unhoused individuals in Escambia and Santa Rosa County that were identified in the last year. So that's one fiscal year. Of that, roughly 93% are from this area. And then over the last 5 years, we've lost a combination of around 2,000 transitional housing, permanent supportive housing, and shelter space. We've got people on the street that are homeless. I live on the street. What are you prepared to, because right now we've got that 4.1 million ARPA money that's sitting in the county. I am seeing that there are some movement there. Are you prepared to follow evidence-based best practices and build out a low barrier harm reduction shelter that's so desperately needed in this area?
Well, okay, two things. I care about the homeless issue, but when you say evidence-based practices, the first thing, we got to make sure that evidence-based is equal across each county. So I've went to all these sites. So the first thing is, in Escambia County and Leon County, they're the only two counties with a reentry program. That's a state problem that we shouldn't be the only county to handle the burden. That's part of the reason I think we have a little bit more. I know most of them are Escambia, Santa Rosa. Connie Bookman came back and we got back. I heard it was a little about 80 some, but if you say it's 93, I'm going to take your word for it. I do think there's a serious homeless problem. I actually think it's going to get worse with the immigration coming in from the south border. You cannot have 8 to 20,000 people a day coming across the southern border. I was at a roundtable event today with Senator Scott. It is going to tax the school systems, the healthcare systems across the country, the road system. I mean, all the things that when you're bringing in 2 million additional people a year, it eventually is going to affect your neighborhood. So now you got to say, here's what I'm going to tell you what I'd like to do. I support the REAP program. I also support Pathways to Change. I have a little bit of difference on some of the places, and I know your question, this is going to be a twist on where you're going because I don't think I have the right answer yet for what you want. I don't agree with the shelter that they wanted to put up on Jordan next to Pensacola High School. I thought that was a bad idea. It's way too close to high school. I definitely don't agree with doing it underneath. The stuff down at Pathways to Change, which I want those people inside where Melissa Johnson's doing great work. I got it. But that in itself is a debacle of government in itself, what happened at Pathways to Change down there. If you don't know the story, there was a contract with another commissioner. They had to move the folks out. That's in litigation, and the people are living out behind Pathways to Change, and they have, I think, 14 spaces in there with bathrooms that they could use if the building was up to code. It's not. The Salvation Army is a great example of how to treat families. From a guy that was in the Navy that lived with 60 people in a room, I'll tell you something, I thought that was well run. The only criticism I have on that place was that they have an industrial-sized kitchen. They're not training people to do activities of daily living. They're bringing food in. So that was a curriculum process I had with that site. Here's my concern, evidence-based. If we have programs, and I don't know this answer, you may be able to answer it. If you say you have a homeless program and it's growing, are you growing the homeless program or are you trying to cure the homeless program? And here's the mission statement should be, are we getting less or more homeless? What's the mission? Is it to try to get people out of a homeless state and become productive citizens and jobs and get housing is what we want? I am undecided where we're going, and I'll be honest, because I think our homeless situation is growing. Would you agree? Yeah. Now, that's a multi-factor problem. The city used some CARES funds to put some of the homeless in hotels on Cervantes, which, I don't know. Huh? I know, but they did it. They used it. And most people didn't know that. I'm not sure if they stopped doing that because it became a kind of a political problem for them. But what I'm committed to as a nurse and understanding behavioral change, I'm certified in health promotions and behavioral change. It doesn't matter if you got to quit smoking, you got to lose weight, got to lower your cholesterol. I've done all that. Or you got to, you're an alcoholic or whatever you're into. There's got to be a curriculum that's got a support system, one, that it's helping people to get out, which has a mechanism that they can learn a trade, but it also has to have deterrence. It has to have deterrence to keep people from going back to the state they were in before, whatever their vice is, and that can be a lot of different things. I don't think the answer to the homeless situation is an easy one, Walt. And I'll be honest, I've committed a lot of time to it. I'm on the health authority. We've given a lot of money to charities in Escambia County, and but I will tell you this: I'm going to use my heart and my with data to make the right decision. And I don't have enough data to answer your question. I'm not trying to slide it. I'm just being straight with you. I don't make promises I can't keep, man. I just don't do it because you do, and then they think you're a liar or a politician. I tell people they can call me a nurse, a captain, a pug lover, a runner, but just don't call me a politician. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir, Keith.
One of the biggest problems that I have with the county is accountability on the funding. It seems to me that there's an awful lot of money out there, and it doesn't have the priority level of what's going to be first, what's going to be second.
I love this question.
It just seems to me that everybody has their own vision, but nobody is willing to set the priorities to make the very top things happen without getting money sucked away from it.
So, okay, that's what I would call a root cause analysis. How did we get there? So we're one of, don't quote me on the number, but only a handful of counties in the state of Florida that have district commissioners. So a lot of people would argue that you should have at-large commissioners, so they would represent the whole county. So here's why I'm going to tell you I like that, but I don't like it, and then I'm going to answer your question, because the question you had is a political question. It's not an executive question. If it was an executive board like I've been on for 10 years, you would rack and stack priorities, and if Warrington needed all of it, or Beach Haven, you do that first versus somewhere else. That's not how we do it in Escambia County. You're absolutely right. Everyone gets their discretionary funds, and then there's some backroom deals that happen by who gives money. Everyone knows that happens. I'm seeing it now. And the bottom line is that doesn't create for good governance. So that's going to be one of my biggest obstacles. I'm not a huge fan of discretionary funds, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get rid of them. I'll tell you why. They love them. If you watch the other day, I was watching the Tourism Development Committee, you know, and David Bear's the chair of it. Nothing bad against him. I saw him today. But there's a county commissioner on there, there's a city council member, and everyone else is appointed, you know, or by the county commissioners. They're sitting there going through the agenda, right? And they say, well, I'll give some more money out of my discretionary funds for the Chappie James Memorial. I'm completely in support of the Chappie James Memorial, 100%. But why would you bring that up when you're already allocating money from the TDT that I'm going to give some out of my discretionary funds? That's your money. That's your money that they give away. And I'm not saying they shouldn't give it there, but shouldn't all those projects be racked and stacked and appropriately haggled in front of the people so that we get the best decision? Hey, when I had to do life cycle process for the Navy Hospital, all the directors had to sit down with the XO. We'd say, this is how much money's got left. How much, if we can give money for civilian awards. Every single thing would have to be haggled out if we're going to buy boilers or IV machines based on what we had left. That's not really how the government works here. It should. I agree with what you're saying, but it doesn't work like that way. I'd like to see it. I'm going to challenge them. I don't think they're going to change unless we get a few other people on the board that are willing to do that. I'm not going to, but I'm willing to change the way we do governance. I promise you I am. I'd be willing to give up my discretionary funds if they would. I'll even challenge them to it, but I doubt they're going to do that. No way. Because it's a sense of power. And if you've never had power, you crave to it. And it's a natural process for a lot of people in politics. I hope that answered your question. I don't know if it did. Yeah. Anyone else have anything they want to add? Yes, sir.
I mean, you're going to run for county commission too. Great job. I mean, my hat's off to you going down there and play politics with those people down there. Just like the gentleman said over there. You listen to the county commission, what's going on. I never know what's going on, be on the agenda until I happen to say, hey, they voted for this. Shouldn't they be telling the committee what we're working on before they get their little deal and come out and say, hey, we're going to vote on this now?
Yeah. Well, that's the sunshine law that restricts a lot of that. So that's where the county administrator kind of works between them. The sunshine law puts a lot of restrictions on communication with commissioners outside through like the administrator or in a transparent environment like a board meeting or a county commissioner meeting. The answer is yes. There should be a lot more disclosure. I'm 100% for transparency. But you're right. There's things that don't make sense sometimes. That's been talked out through people that work for the county. Then they come out and it's a 4-to-1 vote, and you're like, how is that possible? Shouldn't have happened. I'll give you an example. I'm not here to defend Doug Underhill, but I am going to defend this. Okay, how many people watched the night that the Allison Rogers, the county attorney, said that Doug Underhill had made a threat against her? Did anyone remember that? Okay, I was watching that night. All right, as a former XO that had to do assign officers all the time to do investigations, I couldn't believe how that went down. Honest to God. So she made an allegation, and it went from an allegation, which it should have went to the Merit Service Review Board. That's how you treat a grievance. That never even was mentioned. So what happened was it went from an allegation where there was no investigation to him being acquitted, or not acquitted, censured that night. That's crazy in a democracy. I'm not here to defend Doug Underhill for or against him, but I do believe in due process. I would do it for anyone in this room. I would, if someone came and said to me as XO, hey, Lieutenant Jones harassed me, I'd say, okay, I appreciate that. Let me get legal in here. We'll get your statement. I'd go tell the skipper, we'd assign an investigating officer, and then we'd go through the process, and then it'd come back to legal, and we'd make a decision if we had to do something. That's how it works. That's not how it works down there. I've never seen anything like that in my life. I was just caught off guard. I'm surprised how they work. Now, I'm sure if this gets taped, they're going to say, oh, great. But I would never function like that. I believe in due process. I believe in the way this country works. I believe everyone, even if you don't like someone, they should get a fair share to prove themselves innocent. And he didn't get that opportunity, so I thought that was wrong. You know?
Another question.
Yep.
I mean, you mentioned the different areas, the flood and that. What are your goals for the district?
Well,
For this area?
well, honestly, I mentioned I went down them all. The first one, now the FDOT job with Gulf Beach to Sorrento, that's without a doubt the #1 thing. I don't know how many of you know Joe Gilchrist. He passed away. I sat down with him April 6th, 7 weeks before he died. He was going to support me, told me to my face. We were supposed to be with me Friday at an event, and he's not going to be there. I'd never talked to Joe Gilchrist before. I spent about 3 hours with him. And I told him I came here in 1988, and I didn't have a car. I finally was able to buy a car. And I drove down Gulf Beach Highway, and I went to Johnson's Beach. I said there wasn't a lot of traffic, there wasn't a lot of houses, there wasn't a whole lot of anything, right? Now you got more traffic, more trash. I said nothing's changed on that road in 40 years. He said, Mike, you're wrong. Nothing's changed since 1924. Well, I met his match, walking door. This lady says, Joe's wrong. It went from dirt to asphalt. I said, he died before I could tell him that. But it's the truth. That road hasn't changed in ever. So, and you can't have that kind of growth. And here's the other thing. I talked about time to treat survivability. Just imagine in your head for a second if you live in Cordova Park and you're having a heart attack. You can go down 9th Avenue. You can go down Airport Avenue. What are all those? 4-lane roads. Imagine if you have a heart attack out here. You got 2-lane roads dealing with traffic all the way over to Baptist till you get down to Barrancas. They're all 2-lane roads. That affects time to travel. I mean, so when you look at when we do infrastructure within a community, infrastructure shouldn't be just with the county commissioners. It should be with the school board saying, well, can we take on this many students? It should be with ECUA saying, hey, are you looking at doing, well, now everything has to go septic, but, you know, revitalization of communities like what they're doing in Navy Point. And Navy Point's a great example. I walked around with Glenn, and he showed me some stuff there. But on the septic side, I spent a little time over there. And on the other side, they're putting septic inside Navy. But on the other side of the bridge, they haven't done it. And I thought the guy was joking with me, but he was telling me the truth. And it's like right on the water. So you're going, now how is this process thought out? I don't know. I'm not on ECUA, but it doesn't make sense to me. There's certain things that you have to have other parties in the room so that you make the best decision. And I think a lot of our government functions in a silo vacuum. I do. Yes, sir.
I got a question. I'm not the smartest person in the world,
Look smart.
but I did construction for a while, and I noticed you got all these sidewalks. Well, not you, but the county's got all these sidewalks going up and down Gulf Beach Highway. They put up new lights, and now they're going to repave the road. But in a couple more years, they're going to widen it. Why not take all the money that they spent to put up all those lights, all those sidewalks, and to repave the roads, and make it what they want it to be? Why not have the end result whenever they just do these little things?
I can answer that, 'cause that's an easy question. So what happens is you'll have discretionary money that they'll do that, but then FDOT does the main road. So you got two different government agencies funding different resources. So these patchy little things that are up and down here that don't make sense, really, they're just little areas. Those are probably from discretionary funds that they thought would be a quick fix. That's not where the money's going to come to fix that road up to Theo Barr's Bridge. That's going to come out of FDOT. So that's just an example of the government not talking to the other part of the government, and so we end up wasting money. Yeah. Well, I've never been in politics. I'm just telling you what I know, and I don't have all the answers, but I will tell you that's being in government for a long time. I even saw that in the military where they'd waste a lot of money, and it drive me nuts, man. I mean, I'm very fiscal conservative. I always would tell the department heads and directors, do everything you can to save money as long as you can. We have safe practice. You know what the COs would say? Why are you doing that? We're going to lose our funding next year. There's no incentive to do what's right. There's no incentive because they're so worried that the next year they won't get the budget and there'll be a shortfall. So everyone spends to the very nickel what they can, even when they don't need things. And that's not healthy for a lasting government anywhere. You're wasting money. So, that's where you need to hire people that are committed to doing what's right, not with what it's a systemic problem. It's way bigger than me running for county commissioner, or way bigger than that. It's a systemic problem across the country. But
I'm not trying to get you one of those gotcha questions. I was just.
Oh, you can.
It's something I observed,
No, I see it. I agree with you.
Yes, sir.
I agree with you 100%. I can't answer that, but I see it all, I see it. I watch these discretionary funds, and it kind of is disappointing to me. We'll see if I can try to make them change. Maybe I can just get them to decrease it. That'd be a miracle in itself. Hey, Walt.
Hey, question real quick on affordable housing, because that's a huge issue we have in this area right now. And I think it goes a lot to our issues with homelessness because, I think the latest number is 42% of the individuals experiencing homelessness have a permanent disability that is caused there, and the majority of them are on SSI or SSDI. But my question is, I know for the last several years, the initiatives to get tiny houses, RV parks, has just, we've gotten it across the line at the city and gotten that code pushed through. But, the shenanigans that have taken place at the county level, what's your position on that?
So,
count on your support to get tiny houses across the line and mother-in-law suites and multiple units on a single meter into the code so that we can get that medium density housing in areas that are zoned for single family.
I can answer one of those questions. You can't put a single. Each home has to be on its own electrical meter. That's part of the law.
I'll show you where I live right up the street.
Yeah. Well, okay. I don't know the electrical meter, but what I will tell you is, so I'd never given much attention to this, but I have. Jim Reeves gave me a big earful on this, and so I started looking into it. And now the cost, from what I understand, is around $64,000 for a tiny house. So they're not as cheap as people think. But I will tell you, I'm not opposed to tiny houses. I walked through a lot of neighborhoods where you see the trailer parks. Tiny houses ain't going to be any worse than some of the trailer park areas. But the issue is where do you put them? How are they going to be paid for? How many are you going to put in a zone? I know Jim's a huge advocate for it, and he gave me a lot of data that made me start thinking more about it and walking doors. I'm not opposed to tiny houses if it helps people, but I'm not sure the cost. Who's going to pay the cost? The tiny house. Yes. Okay. Here's the thing. Am I opposed to tiny houses? No. How do you pay for the tiny house? Who's going to sustain them? Are they going to be for homeless people that are recovered citizenship? Or is it going to be someone like that has a lot of money that funds them through a government grant that gets a payoff for it? Then I have a little bit more reservation, maybe. Got to see the whole plan. Don't know yet. But on face value, no, I'm not opposed to tiny houses.
Well, they're accessory dwelling units in the code. Perfectly legal to build in a backyard on your own permits.
Yeah.
Yeah, accessory dwelling units.
But I think they can be helpful to a lot of people. I don't like people living outside on the streets. I'm a nurse. I don't want to see people laying around downtown. Nobody does. No one wants to see people laying around in a drunken or high state, making the community look, well, it's just sad. I mean, it's just a sad, no one wants to see that. It doesn't create for a vibrant community. You know, vibrant communities are based on, you know, you don't have to be rich, but you can be poor and proud. You know, my grandmother lived in trailers. Most of my aunts did. But they were very clean. They took pride in what they had. So it has nothing to do with your socioeconomics sometimes. It has to do with how you look at things. If you have dependency, that's different. You can't sometimes get past that till you get some help. But I mean, that's a huge question, Paul?
Mike, a while back, I was talking to some folks, Jim Reeves as well. Do you know if there's any plans to do tiny home, you know, little developments for veterans?
Well, they got. Go ahead, Stan. You want to say something?
Yeah, they did one up on Davis years ago. You know,
It's still there.
Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah.
Right back behind the.
It's got about a 6-month waiting list right now.
Yeah.
The one thing that most people don't know, that the VA has a lot of help for homeless veterans. I mean, one of my friends, Ed Drish, I was stationed with him here. He retired as a PA. When I was in New Orleans, he was literally tracking down, and there's a lot of help for veterans to get them into apartments and stuff like that, but not everyone's a veteran, right? So there's a lot of people out there that aren't veterans that can't get help and need support from the state or the local community. I think veterans, you know, I'm a proud veteran. You know, Memorial Day was yesterday. It was, you know, it's a day to remember our fallen. But I think we take good care of our veterans. I feel like my country takes good care of me as a veteran, and I think we do a really good job. I have no regrets for what I see with what we do for our veterans. Sometimes I feel the people that weren't veterans don't get treated quite as well. I know they didn't sign up, but we could probably do better by our citizens at large too. So. Yes, Dan?
Yeah, I noticed on your campaign trail, one of your stops was the ribbon cutting for the Health and Hope Clinic.
Oh, yeah, that turned out to be fun.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
deal. Well, in doing some of, you know, you can look on their website. Some of their sponsors include Ascension Sacred Heart, Baptist Healthcare, Alstock Wiccan Crease and Overhauls, the Bear Foundation, Florida Blue, Michaels and Booth, Olive Baptist Church, and Sandy Sansing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also have some other partners that partner with them: AmeriCares, Direct Relief, Merck, Pfizer, and United Way, and a couple others. In the funding, and Americans gave a record of $471 billion to charitable foundations in 2020. Why, with all these big names, does the county need to continue to fund some of these charitable organizations?
They don't, and I want to talk about that. So that got hijacked on a Facebook post, and most people don't know what the Hope and Health Clinic does. So I want to share with you. I've been on the health authority for 10 years. We don't get one nickel from the county. All of the money that we get to give to charities come from bond fees that have been there for 30 years, the $1.4 billion. We gave a $1,500 donation to the Hope and Health Clinic for the gazebo. I went out there as a representative for the gazebo, and I'll just put this out there. My campaign manager took some pictures. Jeff Burgosh happened to be standing in one next to me. I was talking to Todd, the Chamber of Commerce, and his wife got in the picture. They put out some nonsense on social media saying, oh, I guess this is what this guy supports. No, I support nonprofits doing what we do. The people that work in the Hope and Health Clinic, I've worked there. You know what they are? They're volunteer people, all except for the administrator, which probably should come out of the nonprofit funds. But I never said where I stood on that. No one ever asked me. But the nurses, the doctors, the lab techs, the pharmacists, the aides, the chaplain, all volunteer their time. These are the people between Medicare and the poverty line that have no health care. I'm okay with staying with those people that are doing, all those people you mentioned that are donating money. I think that's a great thing. But I don't like when people take a picture and then they start fabricating who you are, because that's not fair. And that's what happened. I'm telling you point blank, that's the facts. And but I've noticed that there's a lot of people that do that in politics, and it's just ask the questions or just call me. You know, I'll give you a straight answer. I'll tell you the truth. But you know, I I am not aligned with anyone but myself and my own resume. And that's the type of person I want to be. You know, I think I don't need endorsements. I got a resume. And I'm proud of what we've done on the health authority. We've given $1.5 million away, and it's all been given from bond fees over the last 30 years. For example, the Century Clinic, I'm just going to give you a few things. So when someone comes and asks you what they've done for charity, I can talk about the next half an hour on it. We've given to Junior Achievement, Pace Girls, Gulf Coast Kids. We helped build the clinic with Baptist out in Century. I did not realize how many people were on methadone out there. We did a four-bedroom operatory for dental, which I wasn't in favor of because they're never going to get that many volunteer dentists out there. But they do have a high methadone clinic out there, which I was surprised, like over 90 a day that get treated at the clinic out in Century that we gave $1 million to help fund. You look at the, I'm trying to think, we've Pace Girls Center, we've given money to them. I can't even remember all of the places we've given money. Same thing with Sertoma. I'm on Sertoma. We've given a bunch of money to different organizations, Service to Mankind. I'm into giving back. My wife works at Warrington Metal. I put on the biggest fundraiser ever on NAS Pensacola for the Marine Corps Relief Society, Rock and Fly. So I know what giving back looks like, and I also know when someone's trying to do a hack job and that's what that was. That was a hack job. So it's sad that people do that. And I was going to respond, and I just was disgusted by it because I'm not a politician, and I've had a few things that I see that's coming up now, and I'm going to keep pushing on. This is a one-time gig for me. I make one promise. If I can't make some change down there, I won't run again. I'm a retired Navy captain. I don't need this job. I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, I do not need this job. I'm doing it because I'm compelled to do it. And if I can earn your trust and support, you'll hopefully I can win it. But like I said, I think that the timing's right for someone different. And I got into it late, but we need someone that can maybe move the dial a little bit. Yeah, thank y'all. I appreciate you coming out tonight. I know how valuable your time is, and for you to come out and listen means a lot because, believe it or not, this election is going to be decided probably like 8,000 to 9,000 votes out of 64,000 people. If you look at the last election between McMillan and Underhill, there was like 7,500 votes. So there will be very few people that vote in the primary. You folks care. You're here. It shows you care. It matters. Try to encourage someone you know to care, because if you want good politics, you got to elect people that are good. But I'll just say this. Senator Scott said something today that resonated with me. Good people don't get into politics. You know why? They're good people. You very rarely do you get someone that comes along that's a decent person that doesn't want power or money. And we need more good people to get into politics. We really do. I kick myself in the butt almost every day for doing this, but I won't quit. I'm not a quitter. My wife and I have done a marathon in every state. We're going to do the continents. We won't quit. We could lose, but we're not going to quit. We're all in this, and I promise you we're until the election day. But that's what you're going to get, and if that's what you like, I ask very respectfully for your vote. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Mike, for letting me be here tonight.